Hey guys, I'm sure you've noticed that it is not Friday and you're getting a video. And why is that, you might ask? Well, took a look at our situation. We're all under quarantine. I'm under quarantine, not working right now. Assuming that a lot of you guys are also in self-isolation, hopefully staying indoors and avoiding infecting people. So I figured I'd take advantage of this time to give you a couple extra videos. We're all kind of desperate for things to watch right now, and I've got time to watch movies and do this real quick, so you've got a couple extras. This will not interfere with our regular videos. You will actually get a new video this Friday, which is the continuing saga of the Quarantine Zone of the Dark Void, which will look a little different in this one because obviously I've shot them at separate times. But after talking about Virus in my last failure to launch, we talked about Deep Rising a little bit, and I got a hankering to rewatch it, and I did, and I figured might as well just make an episode out of it. So this is Failure to Launch on Deep Rising. Okay, so Deep Rising came out in 1998, directed by Stephen Sommers, and starts off with introducing us to Roger Mortis. Whoops, sorry, wrong Failure to Launch. I mean John Finnegan and his catchphrase, "Now what?" His sidekick Pantucci, Benny from the Mummy films, and Pantucci's girlfriend. They're heading to this luxury cruise ship owned by Dr. Chilton, which is also carrying Jean Grey, although this role was originally played by Claire Forlani, who quit after 3 days of filming. Finnegan is carrying a crew of mercenaries, including Cliff Curtis from Virus, the Sphinx, Dr. Jekyll, an Oscar nominee, and Kano, and they're carrying a missile for some reason. Before they can get there, the boat is attacked by an unseen monster, though, and by the time that our crew arrives, it's empty. There's something in there with them, of course, and it starts picking them off, and they find a few survivors. We're finally sort of introduced to our creature, a big tentacle, and we learn what it does to you. It keeps you alive while it drinks you and melts you alive, which sounds pretty terrible, and this effect kind of holds up pretty nicely. The front end of the tentacles look pretty cool as well, vaguely graboid-ish with flower mouth and lots of teeth, and again, they hold up okay. Time to go! The numbers start to dwindle as we get that familiar characters go from A to B and get killed one by one as they go formula, and a character makes the worst decision of all time. You asshole! That was some poor planning, dude. That's on you. When Pantucci finds out that his girlfriend is dead, he basically sheds one tear for her, and then everyone just kind of goes back to business as usual.
Time to go. Now what?
Well, now we find out that you're not dealing with a bunch of different monsters, but one big monster with a bunch of tentacle arms. So does that mean that it has eyes on every tentacle? I mean, they seem to be able to see, I think. It's big and it's ugly, but it has these big vulnerable eyes. And Trillian and Zaphod, I mean Finnegan, escape on a jet ski or a wave runner. I don't know the difference, and if you're planning to let me know in the comments, please be aware that I'm totally okay with being ignorant of this distinction. They get away as they blow up the cruise ship with the rockets from earlier, killing the monster. They end on an island, and Pantucci shows up alive after a presumed death, although he's just cracking jokes and stuff and seemingly okay, even though, his girlfriend was just slowly eaten alive. And we're given one last catchphrase as we find out that the island they're on contains even greater terrors.
Now what?
Now what? We'll never know because there was never any sort of continuation. So, what went wrong? Basically everything. You see, this film was at first being set up as a huge summer blockbuster. The budget was pretty large, and the studio was hoping to cast Harrison Ford in the Finnegan role. After he turned it down, the budget was cut dramatically, although it still cost $45 million to make. The film shot in 1996 and was intended to be released in 97 during the fall season, but Buena Vista pushed it back. Now, there's several reasons given as to why they did this. Some say that the studio just didn't have the faith in it to be in a key release slot anymore and wanted to push it back to a safer time, but others say that there were issues with the special effects and the original monster design and bringing it to life via CGI, so the extra time was actually spent on those. When it was finally released, they dropped it in January of 1998, which, as I noted in my virus video, is known as a dumping ground for studios. Add in the fact that this made the film's release to be after Relic, Anaconda, and Mimic, audiences had seen a bunch of giant monster movies. And pile up on top of that the fact that it was released in the era of Titanic, which basically dominated the entire box office for several months. The new release date severely handicapped it. Not only that, but they apparently had zero clue how to market this movie. I mean, look at this. This is the poster for the movie. Looking at this, it's completely unclear what kind of movie that this is supposed to be. It doesn't show the stars, the setting, the monsters, nothing. I guess it looks like a horror movie and water's involved, but that's it. They didn't even really correct it when it came out on video and gave it this poster and box cover instead. Now, this looks like a generic action film, again with no clue that it's a monster movie of any kind. Although I kind of like the idea of somebody going into, like, say, a Blockbuster and seeing this and thinking that they're going to get some generic jet ski action movie and then find out that they're watching something about giant tentacle monsters instead. When it was released, critics hated it, almost universally giving it negative reviews, which I'm sure didn't help, and ultimately it brought in less than $5 million on its opening weekend and only $11 million in its entire theatrical run. With how big of a disaster that the film's making and release was, it's kind of surprising that they gave Sommers another chance, but they did, and he redeemed himself just 1 year later with The Mummy, a film that has basically the same tone as this one. So here's the thing. And don't get mad at me, but it's a really mediocre movie. The plot's a total cliche, and the characters are really empty, and Treat Williams, although I love him to death, is woefully miscast. But you know what? I don't care. This is one of my favorite monster movies. It's an insane amount of fun, and is definitely rewatchable, so although I can obviously see why they ended up not doing any sort of follow-up to this one, I, for one, would have watched the hell out of it. So there you have it. It's one movie, and that's all it will ever be. I don't think that they'll be doing any sort of revamp. I don't think they'll be doing any remake. Nothing of this. No reboot, no late sequel. Deep Rising was one movie. And that's it. And that's all it really needs to be. It was tons of fun. As I mentioned before, it's really not that great of a movie. But it is awesome in its own right. I love it. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. Just know that it's a plot that you've seen 100 times before. It's just done in a really fun and interesting way. I dig it. What can I say? I like monster movies, and this one just really struck my fancy. That's about it, though. Hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you're enjoying your quarantine. I'm going to be trying to put out some extra videos for you guys to watch so that this makes the time go by a little faster. Also, you can check out a couple other channels that I love. The guys at Carnage Counts, a fantastic channel out there which does sort of like counts up of all of the deaths that are in horror movies. They're a great channel. Love those guys, and you should go check out their channel. You should also check out Tell It Animated, which actually does similar to what I do, which actually goes through franchises, except will actually give you the evolution of a character in animated form. So check out those channels. They're great guys. They've got tons more subscribers than I do, so you might already be subscribed to them, and if not, go ahead and do it. In the meantime, subscribe to me, like my videos, share them out to the world, and check out my Patreon page over here. This video is totally free for patrons. I do a lot of free videos for patrons. There's bonus videos every single month, so if you do sign up, just know that you're not charged for every single video. Like, this is a completely free video on Patreon. So check that out, and in the meantime, I'll see you shortly. Don't know when, but it'll be very, very soon for another great video. Thanks, guys. Bye.